Hey YouTube, today we're going to be looking at a Ruger 357 Magnum revolver. And before we go any further, I'm going to show you that this Ruger 357 Magnum revolver doesn't have any evil ammunition in it, and everybody is safe to watch this video. So what we have here, we have a 2¼ inch Ruger SP101 chambered in 357 Magnum. And Ruger makes several different lines of revolvers, and I know we don't talk a lot about Rugers on here, but I would consider them probably number 3 in the made in the USA revolver line. And this one is the more smaller, compact one, more for like carry. They also make the GP100 series, which is a larger frame one, more for like target or home defense shooting. And they make the single action ones, which is called the Black Hawk, and then they have the large frame Red Hawk or Super Red Hawk. I think they make both of them still, which is more like the 44 Magnums and the larger caliber ones. Well, this one we're going to discuss is the smaller one. This is the SP101. This is chambered in 357 Magnum. Now, one of Ruger's main claims of fame is simplicity. They make these things very simple, and you can break this revolver down and completely disassemble it with no real special tools or special skills required. And that's one of Ruger's main claims to fame is simplicity. One of the other things that they do is they tend to, what a lot of people think is overbuild things. I mean, if you look at the size of this massive top strap and the amount of metal used in this thing, you can put the heaviest loads that you possibly find in a Ruger revolver, and you never have to worry about anything coming apart, cracking, or anything like that. This one features a shrouded ejector rod right here. This ejector rod that ejects the shells out of it. It's fully shrouded inside this underlug underneath this barrel. Top strap's real thick. Everything is just really thick made on this thing, so you don't have to worry about anything ever failing on these. They really are built like tanks, and that's what a lot of people make analogies to. Now, Ruger revolvers are completely different than Smith & Wesson revolvers and Colt revolvers. And one of the differences that people point out all the time about all of them is the way the cylinders release. If you were competition shooting or you had to do reloads, on a Ruger, this is your cylinder release. You simply just push in this button and the cylinder comes out. Now, on a Smith & Wesson, you would push forward to release the cylinder. On a Colt, you would pull back a lever. A Ruger, you just push a button on it. So, out of all of them, this is probably the easiest and simplest one to open up. I know a lot of people give Colt slack, and I'm a Colt guy. And I've shot more Colt revolvers than pretty much any of them. A lot of people give them slack about having to pull back on the cylinder release, and it's counterintuitive to have to do that. Well, they like Smith & Wesson to push on them. Well, they should really like this thing, because all you do is just push your thumb in and the cylinder releases. Now, with this smaller frame Ruger, is a 5-shot revolver. It takes 5 357 Magnums. It'll also shoot 38 specials. Now, that's one of the downfalls I see to this little revolver is the capacity in it, that it only takes 5 rounds. And a lot of the small little J-frame Smith & Wessons, they also take 5 rounds. I think Colt is the only one that I found that's figured out how to make a small frame revolver like this and still managed to put 6 rounds in it. I put a 6-round cylinder in it. Well, this thing only holds 5, but it also is stronger than any of the previously 2 mentioned. If you notice the amount of metal between the cylinders here on this cylinder, it's very, very heavy duty. Now, one of the things that Ruger does that the other 2 larger United States companies don't do is they have perfected something that a lot of people have a problem with, and those people really don't know what they're talking about. This revolver's frame is 100% cast. If you look up here real close here in this crane here, I'm going to see if I can get it to focus for you. You'll see that it's all cast. You can see the cast marks and everything in it. If you look at the hammer here, let me pull this back. It's all casted. You can see the cast markings right here in this little channel here. Everything on this thing is cast, and Ruger does a fantastic job at casting stuff. I'll show you one more time. The top strap here, you can see the cast lines in it where this has all been casted. That's what Ruger does. They cast stuff. If you look at some of the roll marks on here, unlike the other companies, they really like to write stuff on these things. Now this one isn't that bad, but the larger counterparts have more defined writing on them. They read the instruction manuals, and the Ruger Newport of New Hampshire, USA. They just have a serial number on the side, little Ruger logo, and the model and caliper of it. Ruger, a lot of times, will overwrite on the frames of their firearms, and a lot of people, that's a turn off for them. I really don't care. It doesn't affect the way it functions. Anyway, folks, these things are all casted, made from cast stainless steel. This is a stainless steel model, and they work fantastic. Ruger's very simplistic, where you can just take this thing apart. The average person can take it apart without any kind of special tools or knowledge on how revolvers work, break it completely down to the frame and put it back together, and you can do it very shortly, in a very short amount of time. One day we'll do a video on breaking this firearm down, breaking down a Ruger revolver, and I'll show you how simple it is. I'm not a gunsmith, so I'm not going to go into breaking into a Colt revolver or even a Smith & Wesson revolver, which is more simple than a Colt revolver. This is the simplest one out of all of them. Now, if you look at a Ruger, when you pull back this hammer, it rotates counterclockwise, very similar to a Smith & Wesson revolver. Colts always go clockwise, Smith & Wessons go counterclockwise, Rugers go counterclockwise on them. Now, it's got a transfer bar inside here for safety reasons. That's the way this thing operates, is a transfer bar. There's no firing pin mounted on the hammer or anything like that. Now, if you look, this is a double action, single action revolver. So when you pull this thing back and you go to fire it, it's a very light, very defined trigger in it. It's a little bit heavier than a Smith & Wesson or a Colt, but the double action, it's smooth all the way through, but it is a little bit heavier. And actually, I prefer that for what this thing's supposed to be used for. This is a carry gun. You don't need any type of hair trigger going off in this thing. But the operation seems to work very well. It locks up pretty tight. There's very minimum movement here. There's a little bit, but it's very minimum. And if you look between the cylinder and the forging column, it's pretty tight. You don't really see any light right through here breaking through. But these things are real, very, very well made revolvers. Ruger's got a great reputation for these things being super reliable, and they usually don't give you any problems. Now, these are a little bit on the budget side as compared to the Smith & Wesson or the Colts, the new Colts that are out. So in the order of cost, you're going to have the Colt on top, you're going to have the Smith & Wesson next, and you're going to have the Ruger probably running in third place. The reason is Ruger's figured out how to cut corners and cut costs down, and they offer you a great weapon at a great value. To be able to cast these frames out is a big part of that cost. These are not forged frames or anything, and that all costs money, folks, to do that. So I have nothing bad to say about this thing. The action isn't as smooth as like the Colts that I like to shoot and all that. And it's a little bit, it's very close to the feel of a Smith & Wesson, I would say. Now, the Smith & Wessons that I've showed on this channel here, it wouldn't be fair to compare them to them because they've all have action works done on them to smooth them out to work about like a Colt revolver. So, I don't know. I've never had anything done to this one or anything, but I'm sure you could do the same thing to these if you put a little bit of effort into them. But there's nothing bad to say about these, folks. It's a great revolver. It fits in your hand really well. I mean, with the 357 Magnum, with these small grips, it comes on from the factory. There is a little bit of felt recoil, but these things are heavy because they're so well built and so beefed up and everything. So that does help mitigate some of the muzzle flip and some of the recoil on them. You still got to understand, if you're putting full power hot loads of 357 Magnum in this thing, you are going to feel a little bit of recoil to it. You can shoot 38 specials. It's a pleasure to shoot. You can carry, a lot of people carry these things, but plus P 38 special, I don't understand that. If I'm going to buy a 357 Magnum revolver and I'm going to carry it, I'm going to put 357 Magnums in them. And as far as recoil, it's all in training, folks. You just figure out how to do your follow-up shots on it, and you should be fine. This particular model is a carry model, so it does not have adjustable sights on them. It's just got like a sight channel right here, and it is a pretty accurate little gun. Now, is this going to be a 100-yard gun? No, it is not. No guns are 100-yard guns. The thing I like most about this thing is it's not a 9mm. I'm just kidding. I had to see it somewhere in here. But very cool little gun. Very, very neat. Very well built. Well made. Very budget friendly. Little stainless 2 1/4 inch 357 Magnum made by Ruger. One day we're going to do a video the same as we did with Smith & Wesson and Colt, and we'll talk about the Ruger Firearm Company and the history of them and where they've been and where they're going and how they ended up where they are now. And we'll make a couple videos showing differences in Colt and Smith & Wesson and Ruger revolvers all side by side. We'll compare them. But anyway, folks, you have any questions on this little Ruger SP101 357 Magnum, feel free to reach out to me. And thank you very much for watching my video today. And you folks have a great day.